What's up YouTube? So for today's video, I'm going to quickly go over some changes to my overall tier list for the end of 2021. I'll be going through everything pretty quickly, so if you want a more detailed description of all the different characters, then feel free to watch my previous tier list video. Without further ado, let's get started. So I've went ahead and already put some of the 4 stars in the bottom D tier. So starting off with Rosie. I'm going to put Rosie up in C tier, basically because she's a one-trick pony and doesn't offer a whole lot of team utility outside of that. Next up is Lucifer, who I'm also going to put up in C tier. After her recent buff, she's done a lot of damage, but just doesn't offer that much team utility. After Lucifer is Lilith, who I'm also going to link her with C tier, because she doesn't offer much team buffs, nor does she do that much damage herself. Now, Dark Lord is a different story. Dark Lord does amazing damage after her recent buff, and she provides great team utility. Next up is Megamin, who I'm going to put up in S tier since she does so much damage. The only downside is that she was part of the Konosuba collaboration, so she was only limited for a few months of the year. Following Megamin is Mary, who I'm going to put her in C tier. Mary's good in things like PvP and Slasher, but she just doesn't offer that much team utility and damage outside of that. Belphegor, I'm going to have to sadly put her in C tier. So she shines in Slasher mode, but outside of that, there's not really a need to use her. Vivian, I'm going to go ahead and put Vivian up in S tier. So Vivian was recently buffed, which basically made her great for boss battles and most of the raids. So I use her in most of my raids nowadays. Gaia is someone who is going to be sadly put in C tier, so although she does great burst damage and will eventually have some updates to her kit, she doesn't offer that much team utility outside of all archer teams. And as much as I love Artemis, although she's great in most categories, I don't think she's the best in any one category, so because I don't see her being similar to any of those in A or B tier, I'm going to have to sadly put her in C tier. As for Aina, I'm going to put her as the first one in B tier because she's pretty much essential and necessary for things such as the fire raid. Going to someone who plays completely different, Airi is going to be up in S tier. So Airi does phenomenal damage and she has a lot of team benefiting skills. Next up is another Konosuba character, Aqua, who I would put up in B tier. So she's very versatile and very useful for most scenarios, so that places her above C tier, but I just don't see her in the same league as those in A or S. As for Athena, I'm going to go ahead and put Athena down in C tier simply because her damage is not the greatest and her team buffs are not that great. Odin, on the other hand, is someone I would actually put up in B tier. So Odin to me is pretty much like a weaker version of Dark Lord. Up next we have Yui, which I'm just going to put up in S tier since she's the best 5-star healer in the game. As for Joan, I'm actually going to put her in B tier, so similar to Aina, she is pretty much essential for things such as Light Raid. Now onto Kana. So Kana in my last tier list was in S tier, however in this one I'm going to have to sadly move her down to A tier for multiple reasons. Kana is great for most scenarios and especially Slasher mode. And in terms of team utility, she doesn't really help out the team that much. As far as damage goes, she's still one of the top DPS in the game. However, with characters that are recently released such as Airi and Mia, Kana's damage accomplishments are just slightly less impressive. Next up we have Dark, who I'm going to have to sadly put in C tier. So Dark is great for things like farming and Slasher mode and Abyss mode, but I just don't see her in the same league as those as A and B. And of course, Cain is the main character of the game, and he's also fixed to the party, so of course I'm just going to put him in S tier. Khaleesi is one of those characters that have gotten buffs in the past, but I don't think that really buffed her position in terms of the tier list, so I'm going to put her in C tier. Her damage and team utility is still one of the poorest in the game. On the other hand, someone that I think is heavily underrated is Kairon, who I would put up in A tier. So Kairon has a unique toolkit, she has some good team buffs, and a good burst skill which makes her great for Slasher mode. And with her unique kit, I was able to pass Dark Lord's floor 90 that I wasn't able to with anyone else. Next up is our final Konosuba character, Darkness. So Darkness is probably one of the best, if not the best tank in the game. However, she was only available for those few months of 2021. So Rachel is the only 4-star character that I would really give any praise to, and I would put her in B tier. So to me, she's more versatile and useful than the majority of those in C, but I just don't give her as much respect as those in A and S tier. And last but not least is our newest character Mia, who serves as both a tank, damage dealer, and healer. Because of her versatility and how much she's helped me across all aspects of the game, I think she easily deserves a spot up in S tier. And those are the quick changes to my overall tier list for Winter 2021. Now I know I went through everything fairly quickly, so if you want a more detailed description of all the characters, feel free to watch my previous tier list when I went into more detail. If you had any questions or comments about some of the decisions I made for this tier list, feel free to let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.